Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charmley, and again we're back in Scotland today. This is Swinton Kirk, which is only about 3 miles from Ladykirk in the Scottish borders. This is a much more typical Scottish kirk in that it is a medieval building. I suppose in that sense it's rather atypical in that part of medieval building survives, but it has been massively altered to fit Presbyterian worship, whereas Ladykirk has been very little altered. Here we have a long, low medieval church that has been altered to put the pulpit on a side wall, first of all. But also we're here in what is a massive extension that has been built to make the building essentially oblong in shape and more suited for the word-focused Presbyterian worship. So we'll have a look around again and see what we can see. As usual then, we start at the West End, and you can see immediately the issue here, that we are at the West End looking east in a long medieval church. The gallery that you can see at the East End, that's the Swinton family gallery. That's where the Swinton family would have sat historically, and it's the Laird's Loft as they call it in Scotland, and that's the East End of the medieval church. But the width of the gallery indicates the width of the medieval church, and this whole bit here has been added subsequently, I suspect in the 18th century, essentially to create a more usable Presbyterian meeting house arrangement with the pulpit there. We do have a font. You always have them in these Scots kirks. Often, well, historically they would just use a basin, but here it is. Nice little font. We have here a memorial to Archibald Adam Swinton and Captain George Herbert Taylor Swinton of the Bedfordshire Regiment, and they ensured the purchase of the Swinton estate basically by the family. So up here we've got all these blocks of pews, all numbered. There's over 50 pews. There's a memorial here to William Baird, whose father, Reverend James Baird, was the minister here. He was a curator in the conchological collection of in the British Museum. So conchological, isn't that to do with shells? So that's the part of the predecessor of what eventually becomes the Natural History Museum, being split off in that. So here we are. You can see here the focus is the pulpit. Every effort has been made to get the lines of sight to the pulpit. There is that very necessary column, of course, because you have got to hold this bit of it up. Now, that's an organ. There wouldn't be an organ until quite recently, because, of course, unaccompanied psalmody was the norm in the Church of Scotland until the 19th century. There's a number of memorials up here. James Logan was minister of the United Parishes of Swinton and Simprin. Now, Simprin was the first charge of Thomas Boston. So James Logan was one of Thomas Boston's successors. Swinton Kirk has long since fallen into ruin, and it's difficult to find, but it was there. James Aitchison Gordon. Now here is a diagram showing the seating here. I'm just trying to move it so the reflection of the wind isn't too obvious. And it's very similar to what is now, except that these pews here have been taken out. Next, Swinton family burial aisle, which is open air basically. And the pulpit, very important. In fact, incredibly important. Now the Swinton logo, the Swinton crest is a boar, and there we have a wild boar. And we have here, you can see, this is the grave. Here lies Alan Swinton, knight an organ. It's a small chamber-type instrument. I expect it was made for a country house. No pedal board, just single manual. So very simple, but it's all you really need. And would have been seen as revolutionary enough, to be honest. There at pulpit and table, you'll notice that because of the arrangement, the table is stepped down a bit. There was a free church in the parish. That has closed long since. The building is now flats. And here, Swinton Memorials. I think there's another font. It might be collection trough. You don't quite know with these things. Both doors were originally for access. So you have all these Swinton Memorials. There's the Swinton Laird's Loft. You can see here Samuel Swinton and Swinton. Now, all that survives of the medieval interior, here's this this aumbrey. You've got a shelf in the middle. It's basically a stone cupboard. But this is the medieval church, and it's been completely adapted for Presbyterian worship. And you may go, oh, this is awful. But the reality is that every building has been adapted over the centuries. The church has its ways of doing things, and as they change, as at the Reformation, then the buildings have been adapted and adapted again. As Major General Sir John Swinton died in 2018, so the family is still associated with the parish, still in the parish, and this is the medieval church. That would have been the west window, and the columns there are the line of the wall, so it would have been a long, low building. Well, let's go outside and see just how long and low it would have been, and still is at the what's now the front, but would have originally been the south side. We'll just pause here in the porch. First of all, this is the Free Church. The spire is now gone, 1850. And then here we have the 1593 and 1729 rebuilds, which are only partial. And so here we are outside at Swinton Kirk, and you can see here how simple it is. This is the medieval building here along this side. You've got the windows that have been increased in size to give more light on the pulpit side, and the two porches, one either side. So we'll have a look around the outside and again see what we can see. So Swinton Kirk. You can see here how we've got the medieval west end, and then we've got the bit that's been built onto it. I say probably that's going to be your 18th century rebuild, 18th century rebuild, I expect, because that's what it looks like. So we'll go around the back and we'll come back round to the south side and to the southwest porch. Extensive graveyard. Of course, this is a medieval kirk, but also, of course, it is the parish kirk. It's where the burials were. You can see there this window has been altered over time. And there's the vestry around the back. So and we've got these two gables here of the west of the northern extension. Moment of thinking which way's been extended. Northerly, of course. Now, down here is that's the passage to the boiler house in the basement. As I have said many times, there is no theological statement being made by that, whatever you may think. The Swinton burial aisle is here. As you can see, it's basically it's a vault. It's a family vault down there, and a window there. And at this end, at the east end, the Swinton end, the church, the kirk is entirely the width it would have been originally. It's been said that some parts of it may date back about 1,000 years, but as seen today, of course, it is the result of centuries of change, decay and rebuilding. Well, there we are. That's the angle of the Swinton burial aisle, the Swinton vault. Swinton Kirk. Now I believe, well, still Church of Scotland, but it says it is the interdenominational place of worship. I think it's the only church in this area these days. We have memorial to Joshua Coburn, late of the island of Jamaica, son of the deceased James Coburn. So, of course, the core of the colonies is very important. The Scots contributed a huge amount to the colony. There's actually a book on Scots' influence in the colonies called the Scottish Empire. So the empire was so dominated by Scotsmen. So there we have, you can see the external staircase here. So we go a bit further in because of the, among other things, the external staircase to the Swinton Isle. The Swinton Isle is of course locked for safety reasons, but the external staircase is interesting because it's not only, okay, it meant the Swinton family didn't have to mingle with the peasantry, but also there's a safety aspect to it, that you can get in and out quickly without having to go through the body of the kirk. And the two porches, both of which would have been used as access. You can see above there you've got the Swinton Arms, the swine. Yep, the swine. And there's the staircase. So Swinton, it's going to be old manse over there, I expect. So there we are. And finally, very important, here is a cannonball. This is a cannonball from Mons Meg, the giant cannon to be found in Edinburgh Castle. A cannon that was more fatal to those using it than to those it was directed against. But there we are. Sometimes things go wrong. So that is Swinton Kirk. While the earth remaineth, seedtime and harvest shall not cease. That's the wonderful sundial. So, Swinton Kirk. And so there we are, Swinton Kirk. I know I'm a bit of the gloom at the moment. But you're more interested in the church, aren't you, than in me? So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.